need to sit down. Can I grab a picture real quick? Can I grab a picture with you? I mean, can you? I'm promoting you guys. I'm tea party. We're going to have a big tea party event from now on.
You want me here too?
Alright, we're going to go right over here. Do you mind if we sit over here beside
Please
you?
do.
I love your halo. I got some from my husband mine for the gym.
I just got it. I'll tell you where I got it, but
I love that one.
this was a group of patriots up in Pennsylvania that I just visited. And anyway, Tom Jeffries.
I know it too.
I think I've seen you around, and but I don't think I've ever said hello to you.
Oh, it's wonderful to
Yeah,
be here.
thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. It's a blessing.
It is a blessing, isn't it? I mean, for us to be able to do this.
Am I going to be in your way? Do you
No,
have enough room?
look at that. That's
I'm
great.
trying to be quiet over here so you can have your mom out.
No, that's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
I can't see anymore. I turned 54 yesterday and my eyes, I can't see.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, far or near. Mine is near. Far is fine, but
Yeah, we have the same vision.
yeah.
I'm so thankful I didn't have to organize anything or prepare anything today.
That's great, isn't it? Nice to be a participant. That's great. Well, I'm gonna pick your brain while you're here.
Anything I can do, there's not much left. You can have
Our sound system is down. So Antifa and Black Lives Matter aren't the only ones that can yell. I can do it too, but my voice won't last because I'm not used to yelling. Not good. Can everybody hear me okay?
No, come off the microphone. You're better without it.
Does this sound better? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. We're gonna yell. I'm gonna pretend I'm before city council. So I'm just gonna leave the notes, and I'll just talk to you guys. So this is really a critical meeting of the minds for all of us. The battles that we have been going through for a long time has actually resulted in some success, as you know. One of the things that these summits are so important in doing is that they bring all these winter warriors that still have a little fire left, especially after defeat,
Yes.
and they have them come together under one roof, one place, at one time. And that is important when we win because we want to keep the momentum. But it's also critical that if things don't go well for us, that we still have these gathering places to reaffirm and reassure. Because when things don't go well for us, we get bombarded by a bunch of people pointing their fingers at us and saying, see, you're not wanted anymore. We're not listening to you anymore. Your message can't be heard. Because if it could, then you would have won. And so that's dispiriting. And the enemy knows it. And so once that happens, we tend to go into our shell. And when we do that, all of these groups and all your fellow winter warriors get separated from you and from your voice. So that's why I think that these kinds of meetings are so critical, even when things, especially when things don't go well for us, because it gives us to reaffirm, reassess, and then when we're ready to battle, to reset and go like a juggernaut. And that's what I'm hoping that happens today. So today we got a very, very strong lineup in the sense that the people that are here, and let me tell you, those people outside, the sponsors, but they're really our coalition partners. We need them. They need us. And then over the last several years, we have been comfortable working together. And some of you may be old enough to remember that a lot of groups operate proprietary, very territorial. It's very hard to break through that. But fear is a great motivator. And the sense of urgency did wonders to break down those barriers. And so for the last several years, we not only worked together as coalitions, as brothers on the battlefield, armies of the willing, but we also experienced success. So, and we experienced success against all odds. And so now we come into this 2023, and it was all going all for broke. We needed to finish the job. The fact that the outcome of the elections wasn't good hurt us in the terms of people that had put so much into it. Because had we finished the job, it would be a whole different ballgame right now. It doesn't mean we would have gotten anything that we wanted, but we would have had a fighting chance to push through some of the things that were needed to be pushed through. Some of the real basic things, like photo ID when we vote, that kind of stuff. Not teaching perversion and Marxism in the classroom to 2-year-olds, that kind of thing. So that's why a lot of people pull back. But it was a war. And this is a war, but there was one battle. The war is not over yet. We still got 12 more months. And so what I'm hoping that happens today is that we gather, we got very powerful people here. The ones that couldn't come, the organizations, some of them are smaller, but we need to bring them all in. We need to do it now. and this is just my sense. Maybe it's just kind of a neurotic sense that I have. But I am very grateful that there is no explosion of violence throughout the country right now. I think that's coming because it works. It worked in 2020. And no one was held accountable. No one. They were celebrated. They were celebrated. And people in Congress, on film, got down on their hands and knees. Warlords were bowed to. These are people that killed. 2020 saw 66 innocent Americans killed. And not to mention the billions of dollars. You would imagine, since they freaked out over a peaceful protest, supposed to be peaceful, on January 6th, where you had people coming forward simply to stop the theft of an election for the first time in American history. That's all they were doing. And when the police, authority figures, which we respect and support, tells us to go into the Capitol, well, some of us did. And if you see the films that are being released now, what were we doing? We were like going to Disney. We even honored those little nasty little barriers, right? We didn't even pass through the barriers. So all of this stuff that we found out is serious in the sense that elected officials of the highest order were comfortable lying to us. And they were so comfortable because CNN, NBC, New York Times, who also knew the facts, would not report it. So I'm so glad you guys came here today. I know, God, Saturday in the morning, you came, you woke up against all odds. You woke up. And then some of you even changed out of your pajamas. I'm so grateful for that. But here in my hand, we got American Majority, a national organization. These are sponsors, but they're also our natural allies. We have Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. Some of them will be speaking to you because right now it's December, early December. Come in the next couple of weeks, we're going to hit the ground running, and we have to. But if we run, if we hit the ground running, that means the lines of the communications have to tighten. And I'm fine with that. It means that the leadership or a proxy of the leadership has to be on a line of communications, common calendars, a set time a month to communicate, to talk, to review battle plans. We've got 12 months. We have whatever we have to do now. If we wait till June, who knows what the world will look like in June. But right now we know we can go to our cars in peace and go home. So American Majority, Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance, key, just a key organization protecting our bodies, which is something the Constitution tells us that we should be protected. So we've got the John Birch Society, all kinds of good, accurate information coming from them. They were the first Tea Party, and the press demonized them. effectively. Middle resolution, great legislative powers. And I don't know what we would do without them. The Virginia Institute on that same kind of front, because we're being attacked by all fronts right now. And then a heritage action, really, that's really a nationally acclaimed organization that has been tested. And then we got the Virginia Council. Now, Virginia Council is new. But you know what? New's good. New's better than, because you know what I've been watching? I've been watching old organizations go by the wayside. That doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is something like new companies, new groups, new organizations coming in. Virginia Council is one of them. And I will tell you this, I went to their meetings. They've only been around for a year or two. And the excellence, the brain trust in that organization is absolutely impressive. And I am so proud and happy that they are joining us today. So, against all odds, we will begin right now. And what I like to do is some of these groups have already gotten action plans established and they're starting to roll. So I'm going to go ahead and let them know. We've got about 3 minutes. And I'm very, very, very proud to introduce to you Dr. Ann McLean from Virginia Council.
Is here as well, and we have a problem at Arlington National Cemetery. If you could pick up the phone and call Jason Miaris, the Governor Youngkin, Kane, Warner, your representative. Our own army is trying to take down this beautiful grave marker, which was erected to bring together the North and the South in 1912 to 1914 and heal our country. Why would we take down a peace monument? So the Virginia Council is doing things like this. You can also go to www.defendarlington.org. That we need money. This legal fight is huge. But if they can do this, they can come in all our cemeteries. This is a war against the Judeo-Christian worldview, in my opinion, as we've seen with so much against Israel. And so the Virginia Council, we are here to try to preserve art, preserve the legacy of our first principles and our founding fathers, and get our Richmond monuments out of the sewage treatment plant, preserve the beautiful artistry, and also provide for prosperity for Virginians. And I'll be speaking on Tuesday in Chesterfield. So, let's see, Bobby Eberth has invited me on the eradication of history. And we need to talk to our children, talk to your family members, and please spread the word. Bill, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
If it were not for this distinguished scholar, we wouldn't be here today. I would also bring you greetings from John Reed, who is our chairman. Most of you know him. He's not here today. He's traveling, but John is with us in spirit. One thing we are bound and determined to do is use lawfare, which is a famous saying from the left, to fight these Marxist, woke, anarchist, and yes, communist and socialist ideas. We can't do it without your help. We need funding, we need your donations, we need your prayers, but we need your money. And of course, it's that time of year, the end of the year, where you make your charitable donations. I think we have done an admirable job, certainly with Arlington, and I think we have many, many other goals to accomplish in 2024. We want to get our own lawyers on retainer. We want to take the fight to the left wherever we can, whether it's violations of our destruction of our art, violations of freedom of speech, violations of freedom of assembly, all of which is happening. So out in the lobby, we have our flyer with 3 convenient ways to donate. You can use the QRC code, or you can go to our website, but any donation is appreciated. We have a very, very active plan for 2024 that I'd like to fill you in on later, if you can drop by our table. And please don't hesitate if you'd like to talk to Ann or myself or any of our members. please do so. Thank you so much.
One of the things we're finding is it's so frustrating. I know when we're doing more now than we did 20 years ago. That's the thing. And what we were doing 20 years ago was a lot less, but we were being much more effective. So it's just confounding that we're devoting all these resources, and we're being surgical now about it. We're not just spreading the money haphazardly, but we're being surgical, and we're still hitting all kinds of barriers. And the thing is, our battles used to be just the groups that we know in America. But now with the advent of social media and Zuckbucks and the Chinese and their interest in our elections, it's a whole different ball. And I don't know how we compete with that, but I will tell you this. Our next speaker, Cantor.
Are we going to have the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, thank you for reminding us. Because we have all these glitches. So, before we start with the meat of the organization, we were saved because our secret weapon and prayer.
Amen.
So let's go ahead and, Amanda, can you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
And there's the flag. It's to your right, as it should be.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please, can you lead us in the pledge?
Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the tea party and each member here in this room. Thank you for their extended families. Thank you for the blessings of liberty that you've given us for as long as we've been established. Please give us energy, bless our conversation today and each of the presenters, and keep us safe in your might, and give us energy to fight the fights we need to fight. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Test.
Ooh, that sounds good. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Working?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so,
You're a little too close to the microphone.
okay, like I said, about the dark money, that's what I call it anyway. The ones that are the legal sources of income, it blows your mind, from Planned Parenthood to George Soros. But the illegal stuff may equal illegal stuff. So we have Hayden Ludwig. We're proud to announce, first time I met him, very glad that he's here, and he is the Director of Research for Restoration of America, hoping group will be just a line on the armies of the willing. But he can tell you a lot of this stuff that's happening, and hopefully he can tell us, are those things that are happening that are illegal, how might we go ahead and prosecute those, like now, and not wait till after the election. So without further ado, Hayden Ludwig.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Do you want to just start now with the 10 o'clock, 10:15, 30 minutes late, or do you want to cut 30 minutes off of each of the morning speakers?
We'll play that by ear.
Well, I'm the timekeeper.
Okay. We'll do it like 5 minutes. 30 minutes. 5 minutes, and then we'll cut off something.
So just give them 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'll let them know.
Okay.
Good catch.
You do have a microphone, which would help the recording too.
Okay. Is that good, guys? Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right, I got to spend 30 minutes shouting, so. Well, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As introduced, I'm Hayden Ludwig. I'm Director of Research for Restoration of America. Happen to live just across the James in Chesterfield County, so much easier to put on my suit instead of my pajamas and be here with you guys. So thank you for the short commute. My job here today is, first and foremost, to shatter the left's narrative about how Election Day went a month ago. We were all told that that night was a resounding, smashing victory for the Democrats, right? That's what we all heard. In reality, if the Democrats had that kind of success in a blue state like Illinois or New Jersey, it would be a 5-alarm fire for the Democrat Party. We are in a war of attrition where gaining ground is everything, and I want to help you understand the ground that we've started gaining since 2021, when, thank God, our great Governor Youngkin was elected. In the process, I want to help equip you with an understanding of the battlefield that we're fighting on, the enemy that we're facing, both his strengths and critically, his vulnerabilities. So with that, we'll dive in. Now let's start by talking about how money enters the political bloodstream so you see where we're coming from. There are really 3 rivers of cash here, right? You think of the traditional hard dollars going into a party committee or a candidate committee, so think about Governor Youngkin's campaign or the Virginia GOP. Then there's what we call independent expenditures. It's just a term for outside groups like my own, Restoration of America, spending money on TV or radio ads for or against a candidate. We're going to spend the most amount of time talking about those, but at the end, I'm going to cover something that's woefully misunderstood on our side, but which the left has poured a fortune into, and that is how the left weaponizes charitable groups, these tax-exempt 501c3s, in order to do mass voter registration. It's the secret behind why they've been able to flip red states like Arizona and Georgia in a scant number of years. Now, the rule of thumb is that having more money doesn't guarantee you victory. Things like candidate quality matter, but in reality, the candidate with the most cash usually wins the election. Look at these figures. In 2023, the left outspent us by $84 million to about $60 million. That's a $24 million disparity from the left to the right. It's a huge amount of money. Now, we had the advantage in outside spending, these independent expenditures, but not enough to probably make a big sizable difference. Now, that's really ugly, but if you look at the total number of votes, and I know it's a little small here, the left only won the Senate by 34,000 votes, and the House by fewer than 40,000. What this means is it took $24 million more outspending the right to simply barely win a majority in the House of Delegates and lose 2 seats in the state Senate. I don't know about you guys, but that's not a smashing success that I want to brag about. Now we're going to look at some of the top targeted races here. I'm not going to go through all these numbers. What I want you to look for is patterns. So these are the top 9 House seats targeted in 2023 by outside groups. This means outside groups like my own thought that they were winnable. They could have easily gone to the Democrat or the Republican if enough money was pumped into them. What you'll notice with the bold here is that the left outspent the right in all but 2 races, one of which we were dead even in the spending. And yet, for all that money, they only won 3 of the 9. In other words, we won 6 of these 9 competitive seats despite being outspent. If you flip over to the right-hand side here, you'll see the dollar per vote spent. So this is the amount of money you had to spend to win a single Republican or a single Democrat vote. Massive disparities there. It's the same thing in the Senate. You'll excuse me while I grab my water. First with my cotton out here. It's a little bit more favorable to the Democrats right here, but the same pattern holds true. Despite outspending the Republican in all but 2 elections, 2 races, one of which we were dead even with, the left only won 4 of these 7 competitive districts. Now that's enough to keep a majority in the state Senate, but that's not very impressive when you think they had $24 million more to spend than we did. If you look on this left-hand side here, this is over all races, competitive or non-competitive, and you'll see the dollar per vote spent. In every single instance, the Democrat had to dramatically outspend the Republican to be competitive. Here's the bottom line. The left has a hell of a lot more money than the right does. That's always been true. It's their great strength. And yet, it also is their vulnerability, because the left needs to spend dramatically more money than the right to even be competitive, let alone win any big majorities. Now I want to look at some of these mega donors here. Give me just a second. And I'm going to start at the bottom because a lot of these won't be familiar to you guys. A few of them you'll recognize. New Virginia Majority is the group responsible for flipping Virginia back in 2008 for Obama. Thanks, Obama. CASA in Action is based in Maryland. It's a pro-illegal immigration advocacy organization. You all know George Soros. Well, the Future Now PAC is heavily Soros funded. AFSCME is a government workers union. You can guess where their Virginia members live, right? Planned Parenthood, you know. What about the League of Conservation Voters? This is the left's top get out the green vote organization. Heavy spender in all battleground states every single election cycle with tens of millions of dollars to spend. Then there's J.B. Pritzker, the Illinois Democrat governor, who put $250,000 into Democrat General Assembly races. And Dominion Energy. Now, they split about $10 million per the Republicans and the Democrats, but $10 million is nothing to sneer at. It's a lot of money. And at the top of the list, I wonder if you know this fellow, Michael Bills. You should know him because he's the single largest spender in Virginia politics. He is our Commonwealth's George Soros. He's a Goldman Sachs multimillionaire, lives with his wife Sonia Smith out in the Charlottesville, Albemarle area. He runs an environmental group called Clean Virginia. They do a lot of Green New Deal style stuff. But here's a fun fact about him. Between Bills, his wife, and this Clean Virginia group that he heavily funds, he was the single largest donor to the campaign of the infamous porn mom, Susanna Gibson, out in Henrico, who only lost by 1,000 votes. So we almost have him to thank for gracing the House with her presence. Now let's go back to 2020 so you can start to see these trends that I'm talking about. Now, if you were here in November 2020, as we all were, Virginia looked like a lost cause, didn't it? We looked like a blue state. Remember, Biden won our state by 10 points over Trump. Wasn't even close. Yet a funny thing happened a year later. And that's when Governor Youngkin, Jason Miyares, and Winsome Sears swept statewide offices, and the Republicans narrowly took back the House of Delegates. Now, I have a map of places that flipped. We're going to look through some of these in a second here. But what you need to know is in 2021, every single county and city in Virginia went more red compared to 2020. Doesn't mean we won them, but literally every jurisdiction in our Commonwealth went more in our favor in a single year. At the same time, turnout was higher here than it was in the previous governor's race in 2017. Why does that matter? Because historically, over the last 20 years or so, Republicans have done better in low turnout elections compared to Democrats. In this case, an off-year, high turnout election was very favorable to us. That we're changing with the Democrats, where they're getting better at doing low turnout, marginal off-year elections, where a lot of money can make a big difference in a tight race. Now, I have a list of some of these notable flips up here, including my own beloved Chesterfield County. These are places that went blue in 20 and went red in 2021. And I want you to notice something at the map here. Places that went light red in 20 went dark red in 21. Places that went dark blue, like Nova up there, in 20 went light blue in 2021. This is what I mean about things starting to turn around. There's one last thing you need to know that happened in 2021, and that was redistricting. This is when every state in the union throws out its legislative and congressional maps, and they're redrawn. Now, in our case, we had two what they call special masters, individuals charged with drawing all these new maps. This is why I have a map of the counties and the districts that changed so dramatically from 2019 to 2021, you couldn't really compare them. Now, these two special masters tell us they believe Virginia is a blue-leaning purple state. So they drew in maps that give an advantage to the Democrats. Not a huge advantage, one we can overcome, but understand we're fighting an uphill battle. It's built into the very system we're fighting. Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, fast forward with me to 2023. Let's look at some of these key Senate races so you can see how we're doing. In red districts, Trump, the Republican candidate, outperformed Trump's already high performance from 2020. At the same time, in blue districts, so these are places that Biden won in 20 and McAuliffe won in 2021, the Democrat underperformed Biden from the 2020 election. Now, there's a third kind of district that's interesting where I live, like Chesterfield. These are Biden-Youngkin districts, places that went blue, then went red in 2021. This is the competitive battleground that we're fighting in. This will make the difference in whether our state goes red or blue over the next half decade. We have a map up here of strong Dem and strong R districts, but we're going to hone in on the middle four competitive ones. Seats that could have gone either way, yet we won 3 out of the 4 of these competitive Senate districts. That's despite being outspent in all but one of these districts. If we go over to the House, it's the same thing. Strong D, strong R. Look at the middle 7 competitive seats. We won 4 of these 7 here, despite being outspent in every last seat except for one where our spending was at parity with the Democrats. Now you start to see what I mean when I say that having more money is a strength, but they need that money to even get these kinds of mediocre results. Now this wasn't enough to keep the House or win the Senate, but it came darn close. Now it matters how these votes are cast. This is the secret to why we did as well as we did on election night. Go to 2020. 2020 was effectively the first election in our country went all mail, virtually speaking. 2/3 of all Virginia voters cast their vote early, either in person or via mail. That was an all-time high. It's never been like that before. Well, it shrunk in the succeeding elections, but it's still about 1/3 of all voters. Now, I'm not here to sell you on the merits of early voting. I think 45 days is far too long. I'm very skeptical of doing vote by mail myself, and yet you have to win those voters. Understand this. People mean well when they want to vote in person on election day, but bad weather happens. Your car breaks down. You have to rush somebody to the hospital. Stuff goes wrong. Those are lost Republican votes in the 2020 race that we gained back in the 2023 race. Go back to 2020, the Democrats commanded 2/3 of all people who voted early. By 2023, 57% is still a pretty big margin, isn't it? That we closed the gap from 34% to 42% of all early voting, and I believe it's only going to rise from there. Now, this only worked because of Governor Youngkin's Secure Your Vote campaign. You guys remember this. The whole goal was to increase Republican absentee ballot and early voting rates, which we did 5.5% over the last governor's race in 2021. At the same time, absentee ballot return rates went up by 1/3. I understand you can't just simply mail out an absentee ballot and hope for the best. You have to make sure that that ballot is securely filled in, properly filled in with a witness and all that, and then returned to be counted. That's a ballot chase campaign, and it takes a lot of coordination and spending. We pulled that off, and it made the difference. Generated bigger than winning margins in all of these House and Senate races right here. And in all of those, we were outspent by the Democrat. They were close races that easily could have gone the other way, and on a map that was redistricted to give the Democrats an advantage. This is what the final numbers look like. Now, I wish they were more red than this, but the left has a 51-49 seat majority in the House and probably a 21-19 seat majority in the Senate. Without Secure Your Vote, it probably would have looked like this. 55-45 spread in the House and a 23 seat majority in the Senate. This is why the numbers don't lie, and we have to continue investing in this. And like I said, I believe it's only going to get better in 24 and 25 if we keep at this. Now, the last pillar in the stool I want to talk about is how the left abuses these charitable groups. It's something that our side has really only become aware of in the last couple of years. But we estimate a restoration of the left has $500 million available to it every single year to do not good, get out the vote, just identify and register new Democrat voters. $500 million. Folks, I'd be shocked if it's $25 million on our side. That's how big a disparity it is that we're facing. All of this money flows through tax-exempt foundations like the Ford Foundation or George Soros' foundations into tax-exempt nonprofits, 501c3 groups. That's the same part of the tax code as your local church or the Salvation Army or Goodwill. Obviously, an abuse of philanthropy. Why have they gotten away with this so far, right? It's because we haven't paid attention, and we can't rely on the IRS to crack down on these guys, can we? I'm not going to read you this quote, but this is what it says. Using 501c3 nonprofits instead of traditional party committees is 5 to 10 times more cost-effective for donors at netting new Democrat votes. In other words, while our side doesn't register new Republicans at all, we just let people do it themselves, or we use old-fashioned Republican Party committees to do it, which are very ineffective, the left has figured out how to weaponize nonprofit groups created to do charity in order to find and turn out huge numbers, millions of new Democrat voters in places like Atlanta, Maricopa County, Richmond, Petersburg, any battleground state. They go to places where likely Democrats live and turn them out. Now, we know this information because we have it from a confidential donor memo from a group called Mind the Gap. You've never heard of these guys, but they're out in Silicon Valley. All they do is advise Democrat mega donors on which campaigns to cut checks to. Now, it's run by a woman named Barbara Freed. You've never heard of her, but her son is Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah, you see how incestuous this kind of stuff is, right? Now, one of the groups mentioned in this memo is called the Voter Participation Center. This is a DC-based charity that has one purpose. It mails out millions of voter registration forms and absentee ballot request forms to almost every state in the union, but especially battleground states. We're going to look at some of these documents. These are real documents from Voter Participation Center sent my way. You'll notice up here a Topeka, Kansas address. That's a P.O. box. It's not a real place. Why a P.O. box? Because any returns or bounce backs can be added to a national database or library of new registered Democrats available to every leftist group in the country. We don't have anything like that on our side. Notice up here too, prepaid postage. That's huge bucks right there. On the right-hand side, this is from the Center for Voter Information. It's a sister group. It's the same people running it. All this says is a helpful voter education pamphlet educating you on the horrible, evil things that the Republican supports and the wonderful, heavenly things that the Democrat support. So you make up your mind how you're going to vote afterwards. Now this up here is a real voter registration application form mailed out by this private partisan organization. Notice it looks like a government document. But here's the critical thing. See how I can get my pointer here. The names are pre-printed. So is the zip code. So is the county. This is up in Fairfax County for the 2020 election. Now, folks, this kind of information you and I cannot go get. There is no single master database of unregistered but eligible individuals. They're not on voter registration databases because they're not registered to vote, right? This kind of information has to be gleaned from dozens of different government agencies like the DMV or the Social Security Administration, access to which we don't have because of federal and state privacy laws. So ask yourself, how could this private partisan organization possibly get all this information? Well, I have a 30-minute presentation on that. I'd love to give you guys another time, but that has to do with ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center. It's a massive data pipeline that the right is totally cut off from, but the left has made hay with. In our 2021 governor's race, the Voter Participation Center sent out 2 million mailers. That's as many people voted in the last election, by the way. At the top of the list was Fairfax County with 419,000 individuals targeted. Those are people who either weren't registered to vote and now are, or were registered to vote and now got an absentee ballot request. And they don't do it randomly. They target what they call the new American majority. File that term away because you start seeing it in the leftist literature. That means minorities, women, millennials, college graduates, anybody whom statistics tell us is likely to vote for a Democrat if he's registered to vote in the first place. This is the secret to why the left pours hundreds of millions of dollars into doing this, while our side hasn't spent hardly a dime trying to match them. In 2021, they had $11 million to do this, just this one organization. By 2022, it more than tripled to $37 million. Wouldn't you love to have $37 million to turn out Republican voters? I know I would. And the money comes from groups like the pass-through dark money group Tides Foundation in California, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, heavily bankrolled by Mark Zuckerberg, and my favorite, the Chinese tech billionaire Yangping Guan through a US-based foundation. It's outrageous, but they're allowed to do this. Now, all this stuff is really ugly, I know. This is a massive machine, and believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have plenty of presentations we could give on how this kind of dark money system works. I'm going to leave these stats up here for you to kind of peruse. But understand this and be comforted by this. This machine was firing on all cylinders in 2023, and it won them a handful of seats and a tiny majority in the House of Delegates, and lost them 2 seats in the Senate. This machine was firing on all cylinders in 2022 when Republicans got the national popular vote. It was firing in 2021 when we won the governor's race. And in 2020, when Joe Biden didn't win the presidential with millions of votes, he won it by 45,000 probably ill-gotten votes across 4 states. In other words, The left spends a lot more money, and they need to spend a lot more money to win anything outside Manhattan. If they didn't have this kind of money, or if we started spending a fraction of it, we don't need an army like this, like they do, but we had volunteers doing this kind of work on a slightly bigger scale, could they win anything in a battleground state ever? I don't think so. And this is why I believe 2024 and beyond is the coming apocalypse of the Democrat Party. They may pull it off in one more election cycle, but everything they do, you see in these stats up here, reflects one thing. Everything the far left does and says and stands for is turning away millions of people who spent their entire lives voting Democrat. And for the first time ever, while they're not yet conservatives, they're open to voting for somebody else. And this is the coalition upon which we are building our future-oriented Republican Party. It's patriotic, it's God-fearing, it puts America first, and it's for people who love their children and don't abort them, right? So I want to say thank you for all that you do. Please keep up the good work. No, it is making a difference. It'll be a few more years. Remember, we are in a generational slog with the left. We won't wrap this thing up in a couple election cycles. That's why we need to be patient and live in the light of eternity. Here's a link to some more of my content if you guys are interested in reading it, my contact information. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak with you. I really appreciate it.
Hayden, so I work at one of the state community colleges, and the last time I saw a voter registration table set up, I'm pretty sure it was the New American Majority. And there was literature went around the campus that day, and I think they were there more than once, and I'm sure over 80% of the college kids they got, considering where I live, and we're Democrat. What can we do to counter that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with, sorry about that. I think a lot of that has to do with the lawfare that was mentioned a few minutes ago. We need more litigation groups. We need more citizens filing IRS complaints. Not that I expect the IRS to do anything about it, but understand this. These groups live in darkness. They're not used to the spotlight. A couple of years ago, my former colleague and I, Kristen Eastlick, we took on Arabella Advisors, the largest dark money network in the world. Nobody had ever exposed them before we exposed them. These guys had billions. They could have crushed us under endless lawsuits. Instead, they scurried for the shadows. That's not going to happen every time, but it taught me a lesson, and that's that the left is not used to being in the limelight like this. If we simply put in a barrage of requests saying, hey, I believe these guys are breaking the clear IRS guidance laws on what they're allowed to do as nonpartisan nonprofits, why not bury it? Why not see what comes and happens? But ultimately, you're not going to be able to take the money away. What you're going to be able to do, what you have to do, is copy it. Start doing this yourselves. Now, we at ROA, we're trying to do more voter registration ourselves. We're targeting conservative Catholics and evangelicals, people who would vote our way if they voted at all, but are tuned out of the system because they don't believe they can make a difference. There are tens of millions such people. If all of them voted, Republicans would have a surefire majority everywhere. Mark my words. Talk to those people. What you can do without spending a dime is integrate voter registration in everything you do. So your country club, your gun associations, places where Christian classical education goes on, homeschooling goes on, places where people like us gather, just ask people, are you registered to vote? You'd be shocked at the number of conservatives that say, nah, I'm not registered, my vote doesn't really count. It would count. You saw the numbers. If 34,000 more people, Republicans, voted in House elections alone, we would have won those. All of them. Isn't that shocking? This is why it matters. You don't have to spend a dime to do that. If you are a donor, you want to cut a check, we can talk more about that, but understand there are groups that are trying to do this professionally, and we're making headway. I can't name names here, but there are groups in our Commonwealth that did Christian voter registration in 2021, and they reported tens of thousands of new Baptists who went out and voted. That was significantly larger than Governor Youngkin's margin of victory there. This stuff can make a difference. I don't know if I have time for any more questions. I'm sorry, folks. Thank you again. I appreciate your time.
See, it's not all bad. Believe it or not, I was expecting bad. By the way, we have some possibilities, right? And I know you have more questions. Maybe you have a table or something out there.
We have a table outside with
Yeah.
more literature, please.
There is a chance that we can start initiating lawsuits like against Act Blue on something that's very much against the law that they're doing. It's all a matter of bringing charges. Something to consider. Okay, here we go. We got our next person here, Kristen Eastwick, and she's Senior Vice President at Capital Research Center, America's investigative think tank. So this is going to be a nice segue. Here you go.
I talk pretty loud, so I may or may not use this quite as well. But I do want to say Hayden covered a lot of what happened in Virginia. I'm going to go a little bit, I'm going to move the drone up, and so you can see a little bit of the landscape. Our challenge with numbers nationally is that you tend to have a delay on the accessibility of information, but I can report on some. I want to give you, you're the first people to hear some of these big picture numbers. And then I want to drill down into that memo that Hayden was talking about, and then I want to tell you stuff that has happened since because of the type of sunlight that he suggested is a very good disinfectant, but I want to do it super fast, so forgive me if I talk a little bit speedily. I do it normally, and now it's going to be even more.
Also pointed me, pointed this.
Ah, there we go.
Is it good? Let me see. Are you using the left and right? Yeah, left and right.
Yeah. I think maybe flip your computer around.
It's plugged in, right?
No, different presenter.
I'll take it. Whatever you're putting in.
Well, this is the receiver.
How about you just do it?
You just
Okay. So we already talked about some of this. I'm going to show you the national rivers of money, so you can advance. Go ahead and advance all the way through, and we won't do this. We also have separated out the all outside money from just what people call dark money. Everybody says that since Citizens United, everything has gone bad. I'll show you right now that it's not. Keep advancing all the way through. The numbers that you're looking at nationally on all this stuff, go ahead and advance 4 times. We're looking at, so it increased in the 2018 cycle to the 2020 cycle because, again, Trump, to about triple in hard dollars. This is how much we're looking at, $3.3 billion. Now, the old number was $133 million, and then the charitable giving money, which we clocked at $20 billion, is now at 35. So go ahead and advance through to the whole slide. This is what the disparity, that's what the disparity looks like. The information that Hayden was talking about, all of that public policy giving, think tanks, organizations that exist to change the way people think about ideas, that is so lopsided for progressive thinking that it's really something to think about. And that's how much money just to get them where they are today. And you see the pushback from the right now. It's a center-right country. You have to show up because despite spending all that money, there has not been as much of an ideological shift in the real world. Not talking about cities, not talking about college campuses, but in the real world, as you'd like to think. But the money is there. Go ahead and advance through. That's what the scale looks like. That's where the real money is. Keep going. Okay, so the stuff that has been happening today, and I know this is a repeat for some of you who were here in the August meeting, but this all really got started back in the Romney election. Go ahead and advance through to that next slide. The whole point from a memo that was written by union organizers and immigration advocates and these were people who showed up at the Obama White House a lot, was that we have to win in 2012, Obama has to win again, but the only way to do that is by this Get Out the Vote campaign. $84 million of foundation money. And again, foundations are technically not able to give to partisan election activities. This is something that was determined in 1969 when the Ford Foundation tried to get a Cleveland mayor elected. And Congress said, hey, wait, no. These ballots of money, or these pallets full of money should not go, that were built by wealth from years ago, should not go for these political purposes. But we will let you give to think tanks and charities because that can be done in a nonpartisan way. And the IRS has decided that getting out the vote is not necessarily a partisan activity. Just getting out the vote generically, you can do it in a nonpartisan way, so they allow foundations to give to that function. But that wasn't even the point of the memo. the point of the memo was to initiate, let's advance that, these election reforms. So if you're wondering where some of these things came from, they came from this effort to change the way people think about elections. Now, because the left started doing this, you have two choices. You could fight or you could replicate. And so this idea of, making sure Republicans show up early, these are things that are part of the strategy. And I'll talk in a bit about how that could be strategized a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and focus on this, the next memo. Hayden talked a little bit about the Mind the Gap. His mom actually is no longer running it because, I think you've seen some of the legal problems that the family has had. So if you will advance a little bit, it was a super PAC. Keep going, doesn't make the whole. Again, it was. And what we now know is that he didn't just spend $14 million on Democrats. He was spending millions to influence Republicans as well. What's interesting is that this whole philosophy is based on this thing called effective altruism, and it's about how foundations should be focusing on root causes of problems and how to do the most good efficiently. The way that these folks practiced it, it looked a lot like greed at the end of the day. If you can advance once more, this original plan that Hayden was talking about was actually born out of a memo sent to John Podesta in 2015, and he ran the Hillary Clinton campaign. So let's keep going.
Keep point out, you'll get it.
Oh, go ahead. Let's keep going. And keep going and keep going. So yes, the advantages that they were discussing, or that Hayden discussed, is the baseline, but that was the single most effective tactic, as according to this memo. And this memo was unique in its brazenness, and it was also unique in its conversation. You would think you would maybe look at the highest percentage of voters, like a California or New York. They didn't need to focus that money there if they're doing it for political purposes. If you're doing it for generic purposes, why aren't the targets matching up where the deficiencies are? And so we have tracked that in the 12 states that they were active, it was probably between 1.5 and 3.4 million, and that's using their own calculations that moved. Now, go ahead. We wrote all of this up in a report that is now sitting in my office instead of here in front of you people. But if you come up to me later, I'm going to be here through lunch, and I'm happy to send it to you. Of course, it's also online. We document all of this project. What we really document, and this is again, it's not necessarily for you people, it's for a different audience. We document the millions that foundations gave. And again, we can argue that foundations can support nonpartisan voter registration. But here's what's different. In some of the foundation records that they shared, as a part of what they have to do to be legal, they said, mind the gap, or the mind the gap plans. So clearly they had read the memo, and they gave based on that. So that's now an argument to be made, that this wasn't just general giving, this was giving specifically for a partisan outcome. It exposes also that there are a lot of new job listings, and these are states like Texas and Nevada. Nevada was already there. But Texas was not on the list before. It's on the list now. So there's going to be activity just like this that we can now monitor and track. Now we, back in, I don't even know when it was, early July maybe, wound up using this information to brief the House Oversight Committee. Go ahead and advance. Now, this is the point where someone would usually ask me, who has gone to jail for this? And it doesn't quite work that way. It takes a long time for people to get their arms around exactly what has happened. So, as I mentioned, we talked to the House Committee, and they have subsequently, on August 14th, the day before we released the study, sent out a request for information, understanding and examining the political activities of tax-exempt organizations under this section. So now, you have had the Oversight Committee asking questions and soliciting feedback from citizens who are thinking about this, and who can then submit saying, hey, here's what we saw. And now there's an opportunity. Now, there's a lot of stuff that the House Oversight people have to deal with right now, so I can't say that this is happening quickly, but one thing that has really triggered the thought is that there is a way for foreign agents to give money directly to C4 institutions and for that money to go directly to candidates. And because of that, that's the Campbell's nose under the tent. So there's already legislation that I think has passed a committee on Friday that addresses that particular issue. The more that these issues are addressed, even if it's kernels, it provides media opportunities, it provides discussion opportunities, it provides that spotlight that will help expose just what is happening. And again, the strategy comes later, so keep advancing. Again, if we have hearings, we have that opportunity to replicate that 1969 pivotal, I certainly don't remember that, but have that opportunity to have that high profile. The Ford Foundation president gets put under the lights. There's a change in the way you think about what can be done. But because no one was paying attention to this for a very long time, you can inch into pushing the envelope for different, to do things with money that you shouldn't be. And we could talk about getting tax exempt into a new agency, but agencies tend to be bad. The other type of activity is state-level executive action. Attorneys generals and the secretaries of state, they're responsible at the state level for making sure organizations, charitable organizations are operating properly. And we have an attorney general who has figured this out and is now going after pro-Palestinian groups. That's an easy thing right now because it's big. Once you start going after groups, what are you going to find? Now there's possibly an opportunity to do more. And keep going. The other thing becomes among the donor class, among the group class, among the people here in this room, and in other states who figure out what to do. Remember what I said about duplicate or replicate. Do you spend more money on C3s, if you're on the other side of the fence and think, hey, if this is being done on the left, we should duplicate it. We should replicate it. Or, if the right does that, what will wind up happening? Perhaps there will be a lot of groups who say, oh, we shouldn't do that. Every single dollar the Koch brothers spends is the worst thing that could happen to American politics. If Leonard Leo spends a dime on any sort of political activity, it's a crisis. Well, feed that. If that amount of money is a problem for you, Joe Citizen, let's look at what the left is doing. And it becomes a foil, and it becomes a dialogue piece, and it becomes something to talk about. So these are things that could be done. Tell your local advocates, hey, we should set aside money and see what we can do. And if there's attention to it, there's an opportunity to fight back. The lawfare that you're talking about, all of these things are opportunities to fight back from a conservative point of view. And with that, I will let you go. I'll put my contact information up for a second. By the way, we also have a website called Influence Watch that if you hear about crazy groups out there, try going to Influence Watch and researching them and see who they are and give them money. And if you don't find them, email me, and we'll make sure they get a profile. I don't want to take too much more. We good?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay.
Questions?
I'm happy to use the question trade for me because we're in like the same category. Yes.
Act Blue.
Yes.
Straw donations.
Yeah.
What's going on? How come nobody's interested? I mean, other than a couple groups that are put out some information about it, where is the IRS on that?
Now, I don't know where we are on that because, again, that's kind of a federal, that's often a federal fundraising component of that. Again, this is the first thing. So the memo that I mentioned to you, the request for information, covered three things. First thing it covered was the Mind the Gap voter registration stuff. Second thing was the foreign money given directly to C4s. But the third had to do with that payment system and the Act Blue challenges that are there, where you can't possibly give in small dollars that are hard to find. I will admit, Act Blue, from a perspective, they actually over-disclose. They don't follow what the FEC says they should disclose. They disclose a lot of things. Now, doesn't stop a Chinese billionaire from setting up a corporation, using money to give that corporation, and then it going into the system.
Well, I was talking about individual donors who
No,
didn't,
the 25.
That didn't know they
Yeah.
were donating.
Yeah, that is something that, again, was in the memo. So there's requests for information for that, but we're at still the request for information, not the let's go after it yet. It's understanding what the problem is first.
Okay.
Yeah, again, this is a slow process. Yeah.
Regarding Act Blue,
Yeah.
I understood that the Black Lives Matter organization soliciting donations actually channeled the money or had people don't donate to Act Blue. Basically, on behalf of BLM, or they work through Act Blue, which...
So you have a challenge with that. Some of that is absolutely legal, and here's why. Act Blue is set up in 3 different channels. It has a channel that is allowed to accept charity money. It has a channel that is allowed to accept that C4 money, that money that is for both legislative and possibly educational. And then it has a direct campaign. So those 3 rivers, they have a way to get the right money into those rivers. And what is confusing is that sometimes the media has reported that money from one river went into elections, which it did and it should and it can. And it gets confusing. People think that charitable money went directly to the election, which did not. Doesn't actually, for them, they actually did not do it that way.
But actually, the money, in fact, actually went to a democratically oriented group organization, Act Blue, which had election components to it. So there was an effect, an implicit or a greater connection between BLM and democratic activity.
You know, again, I think that what winds up happening with that is that there is some reporting that is incorrect. The BLM money tended to go to charitable organizations. I'm not saying that they didn't have fraud within them, and they have a lot of malfeasance. I mean, they aren't filing their tax forms. They're getting hauled into being questioned at the state level for their inability to even be a nonprofit. But I don't think that jumped the election line. They just aren't good organizations. They aren't well-run organizations. I got a couple questions. Go for it, sir.
Yes. Isn't it true that the top people in BLM, which most of them were white anyway, didn't they get caught buying a whole bunch of real estate?
Yes.
I mean, millions and millions of dollars. What has become of that, and did anybody go to jail?
So far, no one has gone to jail, but California ripped their ability to raise money in California. Even California, so this is a blue state, even their Secretary of State says, man, if you can't comply with these basic things, we are not going to allow you to raise money in this state. Now, that doesn't, obviously that...
What happened to the millions?
Well, they have spent that money, and that's accountable to the IRS. There is no enforcement. There was an audit done in 2022, I believe, where 37,000, they basically took a look at all of the reasons, all of the claims and complaints that were made about random organizations. You as a citizen could say, you need to audit BLM. Someone took a collection of all of those and looked at why they were, why the claims came up, and for terms fraud and illegal. About 3,000 fraud and illegals. How many do you think the IRS, how many complaints do you think the IRS took up?
I have no idea.
0. So the IRS isn't even following up on complaints of illegalities. They are completely outgunned in the area of nonprofit enforcement. All that can be done is highlighting that in the media and having it be a trial of public opinion, not an actual enforcement.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so that was really
Your
good.
question.
And if you do have questions, go ahead. We're going to pass out these cards. And
They're on the table.
And they're on the table. They've already been passed out. But here's the thing. There are means by which we can do things, but we're going to have to do these kinds of things. It has to be more surgical because it goes into the root of what they're doing. So, our next speaker is very interesting. And I know you've heard this before.
Does it work? Okay, good.
I know you've heard this before, but as Americans, we've grown up in freedom, in the Constitution. Some of us have actually been taught that in school. It must be a subversive school. But anyway, I have a little bit of a background because because I came from Cuba before I got here. Now, I only was living there for a few years. The people who spoke to me as a little child, I thought was just a bunch of old guys from Cuba. And they spoke to me because I spoke Spanish. So they told me all these stories, and I came to appreciate America, although I didn't think it had any application until 2008. And then I knew why I was being told all this information. And I knew I was responsible for doing and acting in this way, regardless of the consequences. So our next speaker, she grew up under Mao's China, under the Cultural Revolution, which was extremely, you talk about the epitome of crushing the human spirit. And she was brought in as a child. And so she has a book called Mao's America. She is all over the news and the national landscape. It is with pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Z. Van Fleet.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your meeting. And this is the first time I come to a libertarian meeting. And it was great. I have to tell you that I came here in 1986. When I left China, I thought I left communism behind me. And I think I come to the land of freedom. There's nothing for me to worry about. I will live happily ever after. And like many immigrants, I just did not pay attention to politics. And I just focused on building my American dream. Get a degree, and get a job, get a house, and raise family and all that. I have to say, it was 2008, I believe. And my husband was watching a presidential debate. And so I was doing some other things in the house, and then I paid no attention because it's all noise to me. When people debate, they all kind of make sense to me, or they make to me there sounds all no difference until one person started to talk, and I remember the moment I stopped and dropped the things I was doing, and then I sat down and watched the whole thing. And that was Ron Paul. He was absolutely the moment that awakened my, I call it political awakening. But after that, I realized I'm a conservative. I did not become a Republican or libertarian. I just know I'm a conservative. Now I know what I really am. I'm an anti-communist. Yeah. I'm just really happy. Before, I think you probably know a little bit of me. I started in Loudoun County. I went to the school board and I gave a speech, talked about the Cultural Revolution. And I thought, of course everyone knows about it. It's the same thing here. Wrong. Most of the people in the meeting room, I think probably the first time they heard Chinese Cultural Revolution. So after that, I was interviewed by all sorts of media, and I was invited to talk to people all around the country. And I was introduced, of course, Mom. She's an old mom, because my son went to school there, and so finally, I got a new title. Author. Thank God, because I kind of mom. So finally, I'm so glad. So I started to be introduced as the author of this book, Mao's America, a survivor's warning. So, and that's, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about why I wrote this book. So let me go back a little bit. I was born in China, and I say, I was born into the slavery of communism. What is slavery? People need to understand. Communism is the worst slavery there is, because the party, the state, own all its subjects. And not just our rights were taken away, they tell us what we can have, where do we live, what job we can have, we can do this, not that, but more than likely, but more importantly, they control our mind. They decide what we need to learn, what we should believe, what we can say, and what we have to think. And that was the indoctrination that I lived through in my entire life there. I was in the first grade when the Cultural Revolution started. So I was too young to join the revolution, to be a Red Guard. That was a little Red Guard. Yeah, everyone want to be part of it, just like today. You know, I'm going to talk about later in detail. And I'm glad. I swear, if I were 4 or 5 years older, I would definitely join the Red Guard to be part of it. And in the process, I might just get killed. And that's how bad things were during the Cultural Revolution. But as a little kid, school was closed as soon as the revolution started, and closed for about 2 years for me. Kind of like what happened here, right? Yeah. Others schools closed as long as 4 years. So during those 2 years, I got the front seat watching the show, the Cultural Revolution. So there's nothing, there's no school, so we just went to street, and every day we saw something. And struggle sessions, parade of denounced people, and eventually violence. So at first it was excitement. So we went out and we watched, but eventually it was not safe enough to go outside. So I spent my 10 years, that was in my entire school years, from 1966 to 1976 when Mao died. That was the Chinese Cultural Revolution. After I graduated from high school, there's nothing for me or people like me. So Mao sent all the young people from city to the countryside to be re-educated. Now you heard that too, right? Re-education by the peasants. So I worked in the countryside for 3 years. People say, what kind of condition? Countryside, I'm sure in your mind is beautiful countryside, you know, especially Virginia. Nope. If you ask me kind of a condition, Stone Age. It's basically so primitive. And so I worked there for 3 years until Deng Xiaoping took over. And he knew that the city, the country was ruined. The CCP was bankrupt. They have to do something. And he decided to open China up and get the foreign investment. So capitalism saved the CCP from the deathbed. And one of the first things he did is open university. And because the university was shut down during the Cultural Revolution, when it finally opened in the early 70s, there's only one qualification to go to college. Not your academic achievement. You have to be politically qualified. You have to be a party member. You have to be recommended by your party boss. Does it sound familiar? It's Mao's affirmative action. And so when Deng took over, he said, no, everyone can go to college, but you have to pass the examination. So that's what I did. So in 1978, I went to college and studied English. And we have choice, for school you have 3 choices of what kind of subject you want to study. English, English, and English. Because by then, we already started to see a little bit of the world. During the Cultural Revolution, nothing. Everything we heard is totally controlled by the government. And we were taught that we should finish every piece of rice because in America, the proletarians are suffering. They are starving. And we believed that. We believed that. So then we started to see an opening, and I just, my God, we were lied to. And I want to go out. I want to see the world. So I want to study English. So after graduation from college, I was given a job. Okay, you don't just go out and look for a job. The party tell you what to do. So I was given a job, but fortunately, I was given a job teaching in a teacher's training college. And in the early 80s, we started to have foreigners come to teach. And there's a group of Americans come to teach in the summer. And one of them become my friend. And she was determined to help me out to come to America. So in 1986, my dream come true. Talking about the privilege, talking about the lottery. That was my lottery. And I was able to come to America. Kentucky, in all places. Went to Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so that's the beginning of my life, new life here in America. So I just want to tell you a little bit of my background. So you can...
We got a slide adjuster here.
Oh, okay.
You just press that one to go, and the other one to go back if you need to.
Okay, I said I'm an anti-communist. People say, what are you talking about? People still ask me on Twitter or X, define it. I think they just pretend that they don't know. Communism is here. It's not hidden. It's in the open. It's absolutely in the open. And now, I think since 2020, a lot of people started to kind of like what do you call the root awakening? What's going on? Reawakening. Yeah. What's going on? And many were shocked. Many of them kind of felt kind of puzzled. What was going on? People like me, people like my friend from China lived under communism. We recognized right away, because we lived through something similar, and that is Mao's Culture Revolution. So that's when I started to really make this decision. I can no longer become quiet and become an observer, become a couch patriot. I have to get into the action. That's when I started to join the Loudoun County Republican Committee and eventually went to school board and made that speech, and then found myself, a public figure. Oh my God, I was not prepared for that. But you know what? It's all God's will. It's all God's will. There's no doubt about it. So it's here. It is not just communism. It is Maoism. It is what's happening. Wokeism is Maoism with American characteristics. Have you heard that? That's what the CCP called their brand of socialism. Socialism with Chinese characteristics. Here is Maoism with American characteristics. Okay. So now we're talking about the revolution. Okay. What is really a Marxist revolution? And there are two kinds of Marxist revolution. The classic Marxist revolution is class struggle, right? So if you read Marx's works, and it's to overthrow capitalist system, the uprising of the proletarian, the working class, using violence to overthrow the government. And that is, a lot of people still think that is the Marxist revolution. That's true. And that happened first in Russia. And it's really a violent military uprising to overthrow the sitting government. And, but it only happened in Russia. Supposedly, it should happen in most industrialized countries, like Karl Marx predicted, like Britain, Germany, and France. But that did not happen. That only happened in kind of backwarded country with limited industrialization. And then it happened in China, which is a agrarian society. So But the communists, they did not give up. They still want to overthrow the capitalist system. But they know the military uprising won't work. Because what? Because the proletarian become middle class. They enjoy their living standards, especially in America. So they're not going to rise up in a bloody revolution and destroy everything that they have. They have to do something different. That is cultural Marxism. And that started with this very important figure that I think his name now has become more and more known. Antonio Gramsci. He was a devoted communist, and he did see the problem with the classic Marxism. So he come up with the idea, okay, we cannot take over them by military or violent uprising, but we can defeat the system by destroying the culture, the hegemony, the dominant culture, and replace it with Marxist ideology. And that's what's going on today. And Mao did both. So this is kind of important to know. Mao said he had two major achievements in his lifetime. One is successfully overthrow the sitting government, the nationalist government, and took over China in 1949 and kicked the nationalist government to Taiwan. That's why we have Taiwan and China. Okay. So his second achievement was the Cultural Revolution that he launched in 1996. What's the difference? Hardly any difference. He also wanted to overthrow a government in 1966. What government? His own government. He wanted to overthrow his own government. He wanted to overthrow his own party, the CCP. Why? Isn't that kind of crazy? Why? Because he feels like he's losing control of the party, especially after his disastrous policy called Great Leap Forward from 1958 to 1962 that caused the Great Famine that killed up to 50 million Chinese. And very few people even know about it. So because of that, he's in a party, he start to kind of question his leadership. He feel like his power was threatened. So that's why he launched the Cultural Revolution, to overthrow those in power, to replace them with his more trusted people, or more he called revolutionary. So this time he did not use an army. Like the last time, it was the Chinese Red Army and later Chinese Liberation Army that did the job. This time he did not need an army. And he could not really use an army. That looked like he had a coup. He had a better army. Guess what the army was at? Tens of millions of young kids. From what? From the government schools. Just like here, just like in America. Those were, he had, by the time he launched the Cultural Revolution, CCP was in control of everything for 17 years. It took them 17 years to create a whole generation of young children, of young revolutionaries who could not think, don't know how to think. They only know one thing, that the party was their parents, real parents. Your biological parents, yes, they are parents, but your real parents were the party and Chairman Mao. That's what we were told. That's what I grew up believing. That's the songs we sang, the poem we read is Mao was our real father. And anything Mao asked us to do, we do. We don't even question it. If Mao, if it comes to choose between Mao and your parents, you don't even question it. You choose Mao. So that's how he could mobilize this whole army of Red Guards to do his bidding, to do two things: to take power of those who are in an authority role, and then to destroy everything that stood in the way to make his version of Marxism, Maoism, as the supreme ideology of the country. So he has to destroy everything. Two goals: destroy everything and then take power. That's what he did. I know, this is
Just a delay.
if you can do that for me, it would be
Yeah.
great. Okay. So over here. So that is the slogan of the Cultural Revolution. Destroy the world, the old world, and build a brand new world. Burn everything down to the ground and build back better. Same idea, exactly same idea. Okay, so during the Cultural Revolution, and we did not call it cancel culture. We call it smash the 4 O's. What are the 4 O's? Old culture, old idea, old custom, and old habits. It is everything that's traditional, everything that is Chinese. Remember, Marxism is not Chinese. Marxism has colonized China since 1949. So we are still the Chinese still live under colonization of Western ideology called Marxism. Anything Chinese has to be destroyed. Anything in the past has to be erased. And history has to be rewritten or erased. So they went after statues. Now you have, Richmond become a statueless city, right? They did the same thing. They destroyed statues. In China, it's not the tradition to have public statues. Usually it's the Buddhist statue in temples or Christian statues in churches. They destroy all that. And then they raise Mao statue everywhere in the city. In downtown of back then, every city Mao statue. Just like today, they destroy all the statues, Washington, Jefferson, whatever, and now we say Freud statue here and there, right? Same thing. And they also changed the street names. Anything that is old, anything that reminds you of the past, has to be destroyed. And these are the Red Guards changed the street name into anti-revisionism street. Revisionism is something that refers to Russia. Because Mao thinks that the Russians are not revolutionary enough and broke away from the Russian communists. So, because they're not radical enough. So, and here we have all sorts of things. We have BMM Plaza right behind or in front of White House, right? And names of schools that using our founding fathers' names have to be changed. Same thing. This is the same thing. One called cancel culture, another called destroy the 4 O's. So repeat. History, repeat. In order to do all this and to destroy the past, to destroy a nation and control the mind of all its subjects, they're not citizens, okay? Those living under communism, they're not citizens, they're subjects. They have to do something even more sinister. They have to destroy the faith, people's faith. So in China, the most popular foreign imported religion is Buddhism. And so, as you see the slide before it, destroyed. But Buddhism actually did not pose that kind of a threat to communism nearly as much as Christianity. I have been telling people, the more I think about it, I think that Marxism was created as a mirror image of Christianity. Absolutely. They use the same vocabulary, right? So that's why it's so deceptive. That's why there's so many people for it. That's exactly what the CCP feel. They really focus on destroying Christianity. Christianity came to China a long time ago. It's like 6th century, but it's only in the 19th century and early 20th century that we have many foreign missionaries come to China and spread Christianity. And so they have to, of course, they have been destroying it, but during the Cultural Revolution, it went to it's more widespread. And the first photo is they have a struggle session of the nuns. That's in Beijing, okay? And and then all the churches were made Chinese churches. They are not Christian churches in China. They are Chinese churches because they're controlled by the party. So look at the picture in the middle. That's a church. Instead of Jesus' portrait or whatever, it's a Mao's portrait, a Xi Jinping's portrait, and the party flag, the Communist Party. That is what's called the Chinese church. It is not a church. It is just totally controlled and taken over by the communists. And also, in the past 10 years, there is really a growth in Christianity. And a lot of them were not resisted CCP, and those can't stand. They have to be taken down. Those are called mega churches. It has to be taken down. Everything has to bring to the total control of the communists.
So they blow them up, huh?
Blow them up, yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's communist. Yeah.
I guess with the Christians inside, maybe.
Yeah, they're persecuted. Yeah. So anyway, no. And the same thing's happening here. Absolutely. We have the woke movement today is because Christianity has been weakened, churches have been infiltrated, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think Charlie Kirk said like 75 of the churches either woke or they say, oh, we don't get into politics. That's not our business. So the real church that's fighting against the Marxism, 20%? Yeah, that is why we see what we see, because they have been weakening and attacking church for decades. And so can you imagine in America, they have the, I think it's doing anti-abortion rally in California. Stop the spread of Christianity. Absolutely, they have to do that because Christianity is the only weapon we have to defeat communism. That's right. Only weapon, absolutely. Okay. They have to destroy something else. And this is not, we guess, that's what they do. They said it clearly in the Communist Manifesto. They want to abolish private ownership, private property. They want to abolish religion, and they want to abolish family. They said that. They stated that clearly, and they have been doing that. And so, as I just told you already, since we were in kindergarten, that's what we're taught. Our real parents were Chairman Mao and the party. And so during the Cultural Revolution, all sorts of things happened of children reporting parents and parents reporting children. Both way. here is a very well-known story of this guy. He was 16 during the Cultural Revolution. He changed his name from whatever his parents named him into Red Guard. So his name is Red Guard because he was a devoted revolutionary. So he heard his mother complaining about the Cultural Revolution or the chaos, whatever. So he reported to the authority. 2 months later, his mother was executed. And this is not just an isolated story. It's happened a lot. And here it's happening in America. I just recently heard something else. This guy was, you can see people say, how do you know this someone is left or right? Yeah. So the son reported the father and for being on the Capitol Hill, and now the father is in jail.
Guy Reffitt.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Guy Reffitt.
Yes, Guy
Reffitt.
Yeah. So this is happening. And then there was a story of a daughter reporting the mother. And then there's more than that. This is becoming more and more commonplace. History repeating. Okay. The most thing they do is they have to divide people. And how do they divide people? In America, we know it's white versus black, or minority versus black, because that is the most easiest way to divide people. In China, we all we look alike. We share the same language, we're the same people. 95% of Chinese are Han Chinese, just like me, right? So, but they divide them by class. Again, that was the classic Marxist way of dividing people. So it started as soon as the communists took over in 1949. They had land reform. It was during that campaign that the class division was codified. If you have property, if you own land, you're classified as the black class. If you have less or you have nothing, you are in the camp of called red class. You say, how do people know? Yes, you know. And during the campaign, land reform campaign, they have little ribbon. Okay, if you are a landowner, the enemy of the state, you have to wear black or white ribbon. If you are proletarian, you wear a red ribbon to distinguish yourself from each other. And this is not just some kind of label. This is part of you. And you pass that label down to your children and your children's children. Just like here, you fill out a government form and you have to say your race. And I hate that. But anyway, there you have to fill out your class, black or red. So become part of you. So from that time on, people were permanently divided. People belong to the black class, enemy. Enemy of the state, enemy of the people. And here is a struggle session. Struggle session did not start in the Cultural Revolution. It started in the land reform. What's your sin? Your sin was wealth. Wealth was the problem. And so up to 2 million landlords were killed.
2 million landlords were killed.
2 million, yes.
Just because.
Just because. They had more than your neighbor. And at first they say landlord means you have land and you don't work on your land and you have you rent it out and you live on the rental. That is the official classification. But in the fields, it's become like in the poor area, there's no landlord like that. Everyone had to work on their little pot. plot. So if you have more than I, now you're the landlord. So many people killed for owning extra wok in their kitchen. It is have-nots. It's the extinction is like basically go after your neighbor.
Is that like reparations here?
Yeah. This is all Marxist idea. Okay. And we, of course, I mentioned that a little bit. We also have division among us. And I talked a little bit of race, but race is still not enough because, 12% of the population is black, and that's why they want to expand it. And it's brown, and whatever. And finally, I become the proud group of the oppressed, right? Chinese, we are oppressed. Nope. We are now become white adjacent. You heard that, right? Asians are called white adjacent because we're just too successful. And that's a problem, okay? So they expanded, and then that's not enough. They go to gender, sexual orientation, and being an immigrant, you can be oppressed. Being an immigrant, you can be a victim. So they expand, and now put all this together is something called intersectionality. You heard that, right? I think by now everybody knows. So you can be oppressor once. You can be oppressor twice. Like if you are black, already you are a victim. But if you're female black, double. Yeah, so you're more victim. And that's what they are pushing. And now, at least this are part of a person, right? Gender and all that. But now they come up with something else. You can just identify yourself, right? You can identify yourself, whatever, and you become a victim. What is victim? It's you become the new proletariat. Why everybody want to be proletariat? You got power, actually. You got privilege. Once you become a victim, you have victim privilege. But all this is really just to divide people. America today, both sides hate each other. They hate each other the same way like during the Cultural Revolution, that the people are so divided, they are willing to kill each other. 20-some million Chinese died during the Cultural Revolution. And most of them were not killed by the government. Most of them were killed by the other Chinese, by each other. And that's how hate can do. And we are almost there. Actually, I think we are there already. That we have hate among the Americans. Just because you disagree with someone, you are just willing to attack that person, and some get killed.
And
Some Trump supporters.
That's by design.
Yeah, by design, absolutely. Okay, you think, they use identity. They really go after people's identity to divide people. Not so fast. When you really think about this, during the Cultural Revolution, the people that were target of the Red Guard, those were communists. Those were CCP bureaucrats, right? So it's not identity. They were not like this was. I think it's either governor or some high official of a province. That's his wife, and so they're communists. They're not part of the black class, but now they become black class. Why? Ideology. They have the wrong thoughts. They picked the wrong line. They were not in line with Mao's class struggle. So it's really, think about it, it's what you think. Yeah. It's your thought that end you up in the wrong class. Same here. You think it's just race? You think it's just gender? You think it's just sexuality? Nope. So David Rubin, you probably know, he's a podcast host. he's gay, and he is conservative. He's not the marginalized, oppressed victim. He's the enemy, right? Because what? Because he's a conservative. That's it. So it's not really about the things that we were told it's about. And Kevin Jenner, wrong. Well, supposedly he or she should be the victim, but she is a conservative. So this created a really problem. And now our lieutenant governor, she's just a black face of the white supremacy, right? So it's not about identity. It's not. It's just a tool. It's really about the ideology. Or is it? Really? Is that all about the ideology? During the Cultural Revolution, all these people that were persecuted, they are devoted communists. The first person here, he was the president of China. And he played a role to give Mao such a status of almost like a god. So they're all communists. And this one is Xi Jinping's father, the dictator of China today. He was purged by Mao, not because of his ideology. It's in fight for power. So now I really want people to see all this, division by class or by race. It's not really about class or race. It's not even about ideology. The ultimate reason for all this is about power. And that's exactly what's happening here. So I just want to tell a little bit of story of those progressives, those people like today's social justice warriors. They haven't figured out what will happen to them. So, because they don't know history, because they never taught history, they're not interested to learn history. So here is something for them to learn. And this is a Chinese author, very celebrated author in the 30s. So she was born in a well-to-do family. You can see she looked bourgeois, right? She looked, refined. And then she decided to be a liberal. She decided to be a progressive. So she started to dress, you can see, she started to dress like not so traditional, more like a liberal. And then eventually she joined the revolution. She became a communist. And she was getting, and actually in the process, she lost her femininity. Do you notice that? Mm-hmm. And she became a communist, and she was getting important roles in charge of authors and literature and all that. On the rise to power. And then what? Then was purged because she dared to have her own thoughts. And she was not following the party close enough. And now you can see that she was labeled as the rightist and sent to the gulags.
Well, she just wasn't walking up.
That is the thing that the people should know. Those wokesters, same thing will happen to them. The Red Guards, I describe a little bit of those Mao's Red Guard. They had the power to do whatever because Mao supported them. The police were defunded. It's not defunded, it's totally dismantled. The Red Guards were given free hand. They can do whatever. They eventually started killing people and then killing each other. And then after their job is finished, which was to destroy China's civilization and take power of those in authority down, their usefulness is over. So what is the kind of power? They can do anything. And then after that, Mao sent them all to the countryside to be re-educated by the peasants. So the young progressives, they absolutely need to know what happened to their counterpart in China. They will be dumped. The BMMers, they will be dumped if the left finally seize power. All those people, they will be considered agitators, they will disappear. Then order will be restored. And by then, we'll have no freedom because we'll have totalitarian government that control every aspect of our lives. Okay. This is, back to my book. So since I started to speak, a lot of people ask me, do you have a book? No book? Never even dreamed of one day I write a book. And then a lot of people start to tell me, you should write a book. And I realized, if I talk 10 minutes there, 40 minutes here, I can't really tell the story. So in the one interview with Newt Gingrich, he said, you should write a book. I said, okay. Yeah, if he says so, maybe I should. So last spring, I made this important decision. I quit my job. And I said, I have to do this. I don't know how, but I'm going to do this. And again, it's God's will. Absolutely, God's will. Whenever I need help, I don't know what to do next in the process of writing this book and getting published, helping hand. I say helping hand. It's just unbelievable. And finally, when I got this book in my hand, I said, did I write this? Did I? This is how I feel. It's God's will. My book is the story of the parallels of the two cultural revolutions. And one, we know the ending. The other, we are getting there. So I want people really learn the history. What happened in China? What was the result of that cultural revolution? And hopefully, waking up more people by 2024. And then we really are fighting for the survival of this republic. We are really fighting for our children and our children's children. You all understand how crucial 2024 is. And I hope my book will play a role, and I hope that you get the book and share it, especially give it to young people. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, time for 2 questions.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to emphasize, I have my brother and his wife were there for 10 years. They were in Wuhan. They were teaching English, as you mentioned. They were teaching at night groups who were there for Jesus Christ. So they were there. That was the main reason. And what they were telling the stories, they got to know the people in the university. They got to know the people in the hospital, which was somewhat capitalism. And they eventually, at about 10 years, got worried. They had people said, you're going to have to escape out to Russia because you won't survive. And the people they taught, if they came out and they found out who they were, they disappeared. If they were there to learn about Jesus Christ, back up, he also said that the way they controlled so many people there, that there were groups, I believe it was 10, and these 10 pig families have a head. And if they get out of the line, they report that 10 group has another group that has 10.
I can address that, yeah. So, I can't cover everything, but one thing I want to say is that the communists, they never go after a person. They go after everything this person, family, relatives, associates, neighbors, and that's what's happening in America today. They did not just go after Trump. His family, his associates, and now his supporters. So the MAGA extremists. And that's exactly what communists. We are not dealing with Democrats. I say this in the Fox News. We're Democrats, Democratic Party is now the Communist Party.
Oh, yes.
Absolute
Yes.
Communist Party.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Is our double standards of justice by the FBI, DOJ, and the legal system, Marxism, communism, or both?
Both. And I talk about the two-tier justice system. In China, Mao said it openly. We have two tiers. One is the proletarian dictatorship. And the people that we consider black class, they have no rights. And then we have another system that's for the allies of the revolution. But really nobody have rights. But at least Mao said it openly. Yeah, for those we consider enemy, they have no rights. But eventually nobody has any rights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It always seems to be the case that it takes someone from another country, from the perspective of where they were, where all freedoms were denied. And when they come here with that perspective, a lot of us can say the same things, doesn't matter. But you have someone that lived in a communist country, hard to refute it. You know why? Because that experience goes beyond ideology. That tragedy has a human face to it, and we respond to that human face. So thank you very much for your courage. So we got a lot of action plans rolling out. So we're about to have lunch, but I wanted you to hear from Dr. Sheila Fury, who is the leader of the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance, and her work has been extraordinarily important. She's got something really important, an event that's coming up. We support it 100% as the Tea Party, and our medical freedom, which wasn't a thing just 10 years ago or 5 years. Now is a thing. There's no bottom. Whatever we concede, there's going to be another bottom. Just so you know. Here's Sheila.
Thank you. What we've all witnessed is the Marxist takeover of medicine. And the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance is fighting back. And so we are hosting an event on January 15th, taking control of your family's health. We are pulling together national speakers from all over the country, and we are addressing all of the issues that are so critical to families here in the state of Virginia. We're addressing the COVID vaccine, as well as the entire toxic childhood vaccine schedule and the dangers that that poses to every child and every family in the Commonwealth. We are looking at the toxins that are being indoctrinated in our children in the public school and private school system. And one of the mechanisms is school-based health centers, which will take away parental authority. And the schools will give your children psychiatric diagnoses. And if you have anything to say about it, CPS is going to be called. So you have to be alert to the dangers of the school system. We also are going to talk about the transgender lie and how it is ruining and destroying the lives of children and families, and the sex trafficking that is happening right in our schools. So if you want to think it's not my kids, it's not my school, I want you to think again, because it absolutely is. And if your child has a smartphone or access to a smartphone, they are being tracked every single day. And we need to be alert, and we need to change what we're doing as parents and grandparents. And we want you to be there on January 15th. Go to our website, VAMFA.org. Buy your tickets today. The price goes up December 10th, which is right around the corner. But if you need my card, you need to delay a little bit. If you talk to me personally, write me a check, I will keep the price low for you, all right? Because you're here today. All right, so thank you very much, and enjoy lunch.
Feel the fury.
It's doing God's work for all of us. We got one more announcement, real quick, for 3 minutes or less before we go to lunch. I know some of you know her. She's great. She's my hero, Amanda Chase.
I just wanted to let you know, if you are interested in signing the petition to get President Trump's name on the ballot, I have it. Sign it by county, and I have it up here. Also, if you want to be a delegate to the RNC convention for President Trump, come and see me. I need your information. My husband's up here, Mike, I'm here, and great to see so many of you today. I'm staying to the very end. So appreciate all the presentations, and I feel like there's cultural Marxism going on in politics, and I'm a victim of that for speaking the truth, and we have to fight against that as well. So thank you, everyone. God bless you.
All right, lunchtime. Now keep the carnage and the body count down to a minimum. You know, there's plenty of food because we made some extras. You might be able to get some seconds. So enjoy lunch and then just come back here and we'll start. And after you want to start the Chester?
Yeah, I'd love to for that.
Yes, we can give you the Chester.
Hey, Patriots, thanks for tuning in. I'm just going to leave this live stream on while we go to lunch. And by the way, so that was Hayden Ludwig of, it was the first speaker, and then She Van Fleet was the second, and of course the last two were Sheila Fury and Amanda Chase. So thank you all for tuning in.
Which county are you in? You'll be the
How you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you again.
You too. This is Chester. You need a second.
That's why I think that's
That's a pretty cool shirt.
right here.
At the MAGA store. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Interesting. Oh, yeah. We love wrestling dogs. Best thing in the world. Best dog in the wrestling. Best dog in the world.
Yeah.
Love them to death. Oh, yeah.
that poor kid is thinking he gets free trials in life. You know, and you have everybody but it's an easy way to push on kids through, and then the other way is easy. You can do what you do in education. Have you ever heard of well, I would look it up if we were practicing because Chesterfield. And they're like, oh yeah, let's get one beside the dog.
Fairfax. Yes, it is. 95 if nothing's moving. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That's the prosecution part.
Hanover. I've got one too, so I should, but you're circulated it correctly. That's good.
That's what I'm trying to expose in Louisa. It's smaller. But see the power is. Yeah, we'll see.
Tom Jeffries. I know who you are, Tom. Bob from New York County. Good to see you.
We met before.
Take a peek at YCPC, Coast and Traffic Commissioners, or if you know what it is, it's a constitutional. So take a peek at that. There might be something to look at. If you got any questions, email you may have me on your phone already. I don't know that I have you in my phone, frankly, but that's my number there, and just keep that. Unless you don't want the paper, double check.
Let's go get something to eat. You gonna do it? Okay.
Yeah, you remember Sweetle? Mike, talk to him all the time. Yeah, he kind of stepped away. We talked in depth about it. So trust me. I know. It sounded like, and every now and then I'll get 757-754-7840. We just put in Bob, York County, Bob, York County. That's the number. But yeah, that just went out 3 weeks ago. We put it up a little early because there's people all over the country. They're trying to get this thing going. And so we stuck it up as a guide. Each individual community has to set up their own session. There you go.
Our guys are going to love it. I mean, there's individuals that want to see something. They want to move ahead. You know, not having.
Well, we found the community. I've been going to some rallies, meeting some other folks. I've been actually going after the militia groups, and they've all come to the concept: maintain your identity, but step out in the public and do the community missions thing if you have to. You can't call yourself a militia. And now it's spread to New York, and Washington State, so it's catching on. So it's just basically we got a 5th generation warfare problem. It looks like we're going to have to use a little 5th generation warfare to start unifying the people. So, my sheriff was all on board, and he was like, we're going to have a problem with the word militia. And it sure was, even my own development team. So we finally decided to go with community missions so we can get maximum citizens involved and get them educated.
I like that. I'm going to spread it around. There's some patriots online right now that I've met. Here, I'm going to give you one that you might find interesting too. Just to look at it. This is a group of patriots in central Pennsylvania and Lycoming County that I've come across. They've been active for over 20 years. I don't know what if they've got any.
Well, the one question I asked them all, and I bumped into so many of these groups, I was like, the first question I asked is if the sheriff gets a phone call from a mother with a lost child, can they call you? Or no, then you're not a constitutional militia. You're a private militia. The sheriff doesn't know you're there. You got to be out in the public, be transparent. You got to serve the community. That's what it's about. I was like, you can call yourself a constitutional militia, fine. You can't. The mission is an alternative. We got to get people united because there's no way to scope.
Right.
That's what we're fighting.
Right.
And I don't care how we do it. I don't care how we do it. Dan Abbott and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, but he's decided he's going to stick to his guns and he's only going to push for the actual militia term, okay? Which is fine. I mean, that's correct. 5th generation warfare is going to cause some problems. VCDL put an alert out about community missions in Campbell County 3 weeks ago. So we're waiting to see how it works out. It had a few responses, but Philip and I are going to get back together here and start running more alerts on it, try to spread it across the state.
Okay, good.
So yeah, check that out, and if you got any questions, that's directly to me.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, she's sitting back. Well, she was sitting back in summer. Yeah.
Can I get a picture of you and Amanda Chase together? And it's just talking. Yeah, it's okay. I'm trying to today. Thank you. Trying to make it. What would it take to be representing, she was talking about our county as a delegate?
Yes. I don't have that information on that yet.
How things outside of the public? Electrical thing. We have a car problem. I had to take him one who's from
Any patriots that are still listening, we're going to have a next speaker. Hopefully here shortly. I'm just going to keep the live stream on, but the next speaker is a gentleman named Ned Ryan of American Majority. Ned Ryan, R-Y-U-N. He's a fantastic speaker, very motivational. And then at 2:30, Katie Thompson is with Heritage Action. Heritage Action. They have a Sentinel program where you can sign up, and they have a call every Monday evening at 5:30. It's a 30-minute call, and they update everyone on what's happening in DC, you know, where to get involved, who to call, what action people need to take. It's pretty informative, and again, that's called Heritage Action. So Katie Thompson. On the agenda, it says that's at 2:30. It says Ned Ryan is at 1:25. I don't know. I think they need to get moving on it. So. I'm not going to stay for the whole thing. Thank you all for listening and for everything that you do. Spread this around. It was some great couple of speakers this morning. Again, it was Hayden Ludwig and then She Van Fleet, who spoke about America's Cultural Revolution. She's the author of Mao's America, and A Survivor's Warning. What a fantastic speaker she is. She's from Northern Virginia, Fairfax, I believe. And she said she quit her job because she knew that she had to take action and get involved. So, very worthwhile, $40 today to be here and support these great patriots, the Virginia Tea Party. And thank you all for listening.
Anyway, see a friend of mine I don't want you to get away without my coming over and seeing her.
Denise, this is for you. This is John Emert, of course.
How are you, sir?
And Amanda. Yes, indeed, Denise. I'm going to put the camera back on them again.
I guess.
Can I give you my cell?
I did that. They're done talking.
I'm gonna find a
Even though I wasn't in his district, I wrote in write-in ballot, but in addition, the one that was the most fun was the soil and water working budget. And so I wrote in March But those are funny. The best ones, as there's additional revenue from the treasurer. How bad do you want to go? And Joe Biden, the treasurer. You say that's a protest vote? Yeah. And I did vote for some of the others straight, but you know, like I voted for Steve Maxwell. Sure. So we're trying to search for that.
So if I get my issue, my name goes on the list. A lot of this is I was already
Yep. Anyway, so we had sort of an open voice network chairman. He didn't notify anybody else. He was going out. So registrar notified probably 49 but he didn't tell anybody else in the party. Okay. But on the 7th, so even though they notified so we have that, and then I mean, that's what I heard.
What happened? The one with the
every 5 minutes. individual programs. And 43 I said we no longer have elections.
I'm waiting for them, you know, I went up there, I'm waiting to see if I can be. Yeah, you know, they just say, I rode the subway. Gotta get pumped back in. They get pumped back in, we're done. Yeah, I think I back around was, I mean, he's down so much, but just.
That's way much better than trying to get out software owns all but it's certainly
It's shot now, but it's still come back in 28. He hasn't killed himself away to San Francisco. And I think that's lady my bet. Because if he just waited his turn. Now he just wants to be both the same state. He had waited his turn.
Where's Chesterfield County?
Chesterfield. Right here, so you get on your way.
They're pretty aggressive. Yeah, well, I was trying to flush the guy out. Somebody's stolen your ID on the picture. Aren't you impressed that you're Yeah, this has only been the past week or so. And so when I get something like that,
I usually try and shift it to places where I know, you know, we know. So I'm asking a question about that, because I don't get any direct answers. And I said this guy, so, well, you know, your answers suggest to me that you are you're slowing the video. Well, actually, I did. I mean, he tried to answer the same, that guy replied after that. Immediately, I just like that. I didn't have a guess what it was.
It's a caricature of something.
This is presenting off screen.
Just make sure you check it out with Michael.
I just didn't want to say this. Okay. I just make sure I don't want to make a speaker about myself.
Welcome back. We got it. Yeah, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah. Hey, how are you? That's Ryan. Yeah, good to meet you. You're still you're one of those. Looks like maybe too much range.
Already very silent.
You even knew my name.
I read really well.
There we go.
You know what? You can like that.
Don't be a hole.
If you've got a powerful one, we can all try your presenter. Here's where it's part of
college grad last year, so I've been fighting insurance.
Wherever you're.
And the poll books, essentially,
We got them all.
Just move over there.
It's all good.
Louise.
I need the curse.
You don't have to do that for everybody.
Well, you already, so, yeah, electronic voting machines are too. Yeah, the poll books, most people say, oh, that's good. The reality is that's essentially a beta version for artificial intelligence predictive voting. You've got four components. You've got early voting in person, early voting by mail, election day in person, and then, drop box after election day. The poll books allow you to determine what the vote is on election day, which combined with the two before election day, they can determine how many mail ballots to set up for the drop box to stuff it so that you win. Predictive voting, artificial intelligence. So it's a good way to describe it. Artificial intelligence predictive voting. Because people are already afraid of artificial intelligence. And when they see it's already in our elections, that's...
She does it so well, too.
Okay.
You have our business cards at the table.
Okay.
A lot of times I have interesting conversations and forget.
I like your hat.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
I got lots of those.
I
After the close, since I'm not working anywhere.
Yeah, well,
just getting out of
I love it because it's red, white, and blue, and why not? You know what I mean?
In Charleston, South Carolina.
Where are you from, Al?
And at that time, I was...
That's where I live now.
I was fractured my ankle, so I couldn't run
We
like
were
I
talking
used to.
about
But I used
Louise
to
Lucas.
run a lot. I had...
I don't.
You know who she is?
No.
You know? She is the blonde-headed black woman who owns half of Portsmouth now.
Okay.
She makes sure that anybody that's white.
Please grab this.
Yeah, let's get back together. Yeah, you're up in Loudoun County, aren't you?
Yeah. Where are you from?
They're all over.
Because there's a guy, I don't know if you know him, there's a guy named Matthew Corso, and he's been doing a lot of stuff there. But one of the key things is there's a lady named Tori Morris, who ran for Secretary of State Independent in Ohio. But she's become a whistleblower. She used to work for like a CIA contractor. And she has admitted that electronically she's been involved with stealing 45 elections overseas. Well, those chickens have come home to roost. Now it's happening in our
Amanda, the reason I gave you this,
Yes, I'm gonna read it.
well, it's obviously, it's a 90-some page report, but this, I think Morrissey was one of the leads on this, but it's basically required them to do a study group on the jail system in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, and, you know, no.
We don't have elections.
I know all about that. I finally got a
I don't know anything about the DOC because the Northern Neck Regional Jail is what I'm chasing, where a lot of the January 6th went through. And I hold a vigil every Friday night.
That's you.
Yeah. We do this on a live stream.
I know a lot of your business was here as soon as we got to our elections. We did. Some was like spoken with
Nikki Whithoff? Yeah.
And I was like, because I was there. That was part of why I was censured. They all came after him, including Republicans. I'm like, there's two senators in West Virginia that censored out. Those are me and January 6th.
They had you in a box, right?
Put me in a box with because I believe in freedom. You would love to get your number. It's on that card.
It's on that card, for sure.
I got it in my phone.
So I've seen you twice. One was when, what's the congresswoman from Arizona?
Well, that is Senator Wendy Rogers.
Wendy Rogers. She spoke at the church out in Chesterfield. I was there for that. Yeah.
I have a question. If by chance those people that couldn't make it, can they get this?
Absolutely. Right here, I'll give you this. So that's our YouTube channel, NNP Patriots on YouTube. It's very simple, and I've got the whole thing from the very beginning, so I think it's been
awesome because they wanted to hear her.
Y'all don't got Arlington Brandy on there, do you?
Yeah, and she was right here in front of the screen.
Oh,
It's really great. Yeah, and here I've got plenty of these. If you want to hand them out to anyone else,
Okay,
for sure.
I will.
But yeah, and tune into our vigils on Friday nights. I mean, you get to hear the January 6ers speak. Last night we had, I think, 4 or 5 guys call out. They talk for usually about 15 minutes, and then we sing the national anthem with the guys.
You did that through Susan Sills.
Yeah.
And I touched base with her. She said she was coming today.
Oh, too bad. Yeah, you haven't seen her for a bit.
Yeah.
Well, she's around so many kids all the time. She's
Yeah,
great.
she is. She is. And Amanda's staying up with her too.
Yeah, we just started talking about it. Yeah, I think we need to get together on this for sure.
I didn't mean to.
No, that's
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
That's all. And one of them mentioned is.
What county are you in? In which one? Oh, we have
I'll make you aware of the actual strategy.
Should I have a blank one for the
What your organization
Let's do one. Nelson's Christmas party.
Yeah, it'll be too late. I think they have most of the signatures, so you can never have too many signatures.
Bring that thing and be like, later on, when they say, you didn't support nobody, you didn't support something, like, ask them and check it. They'll be there, y'all witness it. Yeah.
See, you got people like this.
Picture like that.
Right. I think that is got it.
No, you put it in the wrong place. Oh. I should scratch it out. You're good.
It'll come.
Oh, I know. I asked her about it. I said, don't even tell them to do something for President Trump. If not, there's no
You see that picture right here? The other guy's running.
Oh, yeah. I need to get on it, so I'll be able to say things that you just send me all the dirt.
If you listen to what he's trying to do, like he's trying to frame himself, he's connected. He's connected with all the people. I mean, that's all he can bring when he can. I'm assuming he's leveraging that to get more
Well, that's good to know because I could
I mean, I don't think he's hidden it. I mean, he always announces like these endorsements wherever all these I'm getting ready to start releasing endorsements.
And again, because then we usually have to write a company because they don't
to somebody, and I think it's more important if somebody local, like my pastor endorses this guy, or the hardware store owner endorses this guy. I mean,
Big
that's just
Five
me.
doesn't do that. Big Five is
Doesn't surprise me at all. And that's what I said. I think he's leveraging that guy. I think he's leveraging that kid.
Once you click on the area,
Somebody will have a proof over that, but I mean, to me, it's just common sense.
But they're coming with, this latest wind service to be divided, and they're gonna push that right over the other.
I'm going to put it on. There ain't going to be enough to, there's just not going to be enough.
I don't mind going over with boxing gloves. Because y'all have to be nice, y'all can't. I didn't have anybody to do that for me, so I had to do both.
For me, I don't think it's necessarily being nice. It's just showing the contrast. Right? There are people, especially in this race, it's a little bit different because it's almost easier in the fact because you're so far removed. Right? And that's one thing out of the last 7 months I've taken out is that local politics, because the person that's talking crap about you, like they live down the street. Right? Their kids go to your or on the same soccer team, that type of stuff. Running for statewide and the U.S. Senate, it's not so far removed. So it's not so personal. So at the same time, you just say, look at where these people come from, look at who they stood with, and look at me. Either you can have somebody who stands with Kevin McCarthy, takes pictures and smiles, whatever, or you can see me down in the 5th District here with your local city elders and the folks that actually care about the community and want to see conservative.
I have a question for you. I've learned a lot about the city. Is it all mail? They're all over the state. I just never.
Yeah, they're popping up. So the largest one is in Augusta County. I'll be speaking in Augusta County on the 16th. They gave me a couple minutes to come.
Yeah, I was like,
Nelson County's got one.
I was like, I've seen Nelson, I just saw it.
Virginia Beach, and some other ones. I just met somebody talked to me about one yesterday. But yeah, they're popping up everywhere. And it's just trying to get to
Feel like certain things happen.
business owners. Christian business owners,
Is this more
because the process was, if you leave one of those out, then they're going to be pushing against whatever. So you're trying to get business owners, trying to keep something off Christian businesses, big businesses, grow economy. That's all said and done. I've had nothing but good experiences. A lot better than some of the other places. They're less divided for sure. That's their goal. So those type of people are gravitated to those types of goals. I don't know how long that round will get. I don't know if it gets contentious with primaries or anything. I would like to go through that. Because I've been down in Harrisonburg, and honestly, a lot of Republican strongholds. There's where people aren't participating whatever. Yeah. But like if you was in Frederick County, they got the first group out there. If you go to Shenandoah, there's 3 or 4 different Tea parties there. There's another conservative group that's not Tea Party, that's more conservative. But there's Red Wave, mostly about this, around the church, but ran against some of the Republican
Ronnie Lockley.
We just got closer to
so there's a lot of inner fight. We fight stronger against ourselves than we do against the other. I think if we do it as a so we got to figure it out. So it's going to take some from our parts. And I think we need to use watch the bottom.
Tom, I'm going to take off and get the wife home.
Yeah.
Just want to stop in and say hey before I take off.
Good to see you. Thanks a lot. I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yeah. Reach out to me if you got any questions or whatever. I appreciate it. Good.
Whatever it is, banking, investment, whatever, fine. But now it's not enough, so we have to tell people how to live their it's your turn to rule over it. I think that was a lot of people out there.
But I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. I still want to. I think I'm one of many who wants to know what you got to do.
I'm still trying to figure what's
I mean, y'all can figure it out, but I know you're not just going to quietly into the night.
I know. I'm just wait till session. I'm gonna blow it up. So I know how things work. So I'll be watching. One of the things I did when I was there is I put everything online. So actually, what's going on during session.
We're going to go ahead and start.
How to use it. They're in trouble.
Good talking to you again.
Talking to you as always.
If somebody else from Arlington signs that, I'll buy y'all lunch.
And as we are spending our time here, what we decided to do is we got the attitude that there's no tomorrow. So whatever contacts, whatever information that you can get it now, because there are no guarantees for tomorrow. We've seen the world become more and more volatile. And what happens to us when it does happen, when violence erupts, naturally we go back into our homes to protect our families, and communication suffers, because that's what happened in 2020. So do what you can and make contacts what you can, but in the meantime, we have warriors that, despite all the toxic environment that conservatives are facing, they're running for office. We have two that are running for the United States Senate for Virginia against Tim Kaine. And so I would like to give them about 2 minutes each. And let's see who's here now. Oh, Emord. Okay. Emord is running. I knew him when he started. Very interesting person. And a strong history. Wait till you hear it. And let me introduce to you Mr. Emord, who's running for U.S. Senate for Virginia.
So, can you hear me, guys? Yeah, okay.
Speak up loud as you can.
All right. There you go. So, I'm a constitutional lawyer, have spent the last 38 years suing the federal government. I came in the Reagan administration, and I was at the FCC. When they asked me to come to the FCC, I said, look, I don't believe the FCC should exist, so why should I go to work for it? And the Reagan people didn't think it should exist either. They deregulated it, but it's still there, of course. Well, I had the good fortune of being endorsed by Ron Paul in my election. And a little bit about me. So my name is Jonathan Emord, and there's some literature on the tables. And I came to Washington in the Reagan administration. Subsequently, I became a federal litigator, not for the government, but against the government. And I have the record for defeating the federal government in federal court, the Food and Drug Administration, 8 times, which is a record in the nation. And what I've learned is that we are at the end of our constitutional rope. The Constitution hangs by a thread in this country. We are in a situation that if we don't fundamentally change the direction of our nation in the next year or two, we will see our freedoms eviscerated. What G. Van Fleet talked about, the cultural Marxism movement, the movement to destroy the fossil fuel backbone of the American economy, to crush the American economy. All of this is well underway. 4 weeks ago, I was at the border. And I met with the CBP chief. And what you will find at the border, if you go there, is an astonishing story of ruination of the United States. And what do I mean? Who protected our border, and now they're in human processing. And in the human processing centers, what do? They keep people seeking asylum, which is virtually everyone coming across, there for 72 hours. And in that time, they process them. And what do? They give them welfare. They sign them up for food stamps. They give them cash. They give them a phone, which has an indefinite life. And they also help them find free medical care at our expense and free education. And then they ask them where they want to go. And then they put them on buses, and they take them to the train station, the bus terminal, and the airport. And there, they have non-governmental organizations, fully funded by the federal government, fully funded by us, and they pay for their flights and their trains and their buses wherever they want to go in the United States. This is a conscious plan to destroy our country.
That's right.
It is in fulfillment of Soros, George Soros, and Alex Soros' agenda. All right, let me just conclude by saying this. Thomas Jefferson gave us the remedy for a free government. He said, "A wise and frugal government shall restrain men from injuring one another, shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it deserved." It was the sum of good government then. It is the sum of good government now. Join me in this fight to save our country. Let's save Virginia, and let's save America. God bless you all.
And so we have an embarrassment of riches. We have someone else that's also vying for the U.S. Senate for the Republican Party, and he's been very active. I got to meet him a few times, just like I met with Jonathan Emord. And I'm very pleased to introduce to you Mr. Eddie Garcia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure because I can't hear myself. I just want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Eddie Garcia. I'm running for the United States Senate across the entire Commonwealth in 2024 to once and for all defeat and retire Senator Tim Kaine. And we're gonna beat Tim Kaine because we're going to do everything different than has been done in the past. Republicans haven't won a U.S. Senate race in 21 years. It'll be 22 next year. So if we keep running the same type of candidates, talking about the same messages that we've lost with in the past, we'll just continue to lose it like that in the future. I'm not for that. So I'm running because I believe in a better tomorrow. A better tomorrow to me is one where we grow jobs in this economy, where we grow our economy from the bottom up, where workers matter, where we prioritize blue-collar workers and farmers and ranchers, construction workers, landscapers, pipe fitters, those who put on boots and go to work hard every single day, that want to see themselves and their families and their country succeed. A better tomorrow to me is one where we prioritize families, where we encourage marriage, we encourage children, we don't encourage single motherhood. A better tomorrow to me is one where we have an economy that works for all Americans. Right now, our biggest problem in our federal government is because of our federal government. We have a government that works for the small, minute few and near and dear to Washington, D.C. The same type of bureaucrats, the same type of lobbyists, the same type of corporate lawyers, the same type of people that get rich off the system the way it is, and they have for years and years. It's time for something different. It's time for change. It's time for somebody who looks and sounds like Virginia 2024. And that's what I'm running on. I'm running to be a candidate right here in Virginia for 2024. The type of candidate who can build the campaign that's actually going to win. That's going to win young people. That's going to win minorities. That's going to win Hispanics. That's going to bring women to our side, because we have a positive vision of a positive future, a positive message for the next generation who wants to see us succeed. If we don't do that, then we won't win. I am doing this, and I will win. And so 2024, EddieGarciaVA.com is my website. I'm on all the social media platforms. I put out a lot of content. There's a lot of videos. I say what I mean what I say. I do that, and I put it online so that you can hold me accountable. If I say something today and you hear me say something different tomorrow, then I got some explaining to do. But I don't believe that's the case, because I stand here and I say what I believe, and I encourage you to support me now and support me into 2024 going forward. That's how we're going to win a primary. That's how we're going to build the coalition that we're going to need to win in 2024. That's how we're going to once and for all defeat and retire Senator Tim Kaine. So thank you guys. God bless you.
It's good to have champions, you know. I'm glad, and we have, you know, always seems to us that we have the better candidates, you know. If the other party has someone that's out of prison but was in prison, that's fine with them. So, our next guest, our next speaker, has been with the Tea Party since the birth of the Tea Party. In fact, he founded his organization, American Majority, about the same time that the Tea Party emerged. So we're like kind of like blood brothers. He's been absolutely phenomenal. One of the things that the Tea Party you could criticize, especially in the early years, is we were running like wild horses and we were falling into cliffs, over cliffs, into walls because we had energy but we had no direction. His organization helped to focus and funnel that. Without that, I think we would have been even more of a mess instead of being as effective as we are. So, and he's nationally known. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Ned Ryan.
How's the sound? Is it going to be all right in the back? Yeah. I'll do my best, guys. And if it gets tough in the back, just signal to me and I'll make sure I keep it up to my face. No, good to be back with you guys. As Nelson said, we launched American Majority January 2008, and then obviously spring of 2009, this Tea Party movement began. And it was something that I decided as the founder and CEO, we need to embrace this, we need to come alongside the Tea Party, we need to do everything that we can to help support them, for them to be as effective as possible. And I will tell you this, Nelson, the Tea Party groups that took what we were saying, American Majority, seriously, they're still around. A lot of them that said, no, we're just going to keep doing rallies, we're going to keep doing this, they don't exist anymore. So it was a great starting point. Listen, I love a good rally, right? It's a lot of fun, great. That does not affect the change that is necessary for us to get the results we want politically. And American Majority, we've been around, it'll be 16 years in January. We do candidate training. That's really how we started American Majority. I wanted to go in and identify state, local candidates, school board, city council, county commission, state house, state senate. The next year after we started, 2 years after we started doing activist training and really trying to equip the grassroots on how they can be more effective. In 2010, money on November. Really, on a scale of somehow managed what I learned and some of the things that we've been doing next year in 2020 completely and utterly changed America. I'm here to tell you right now. So, and the other is going down that path. We don't want to protect and civic life and the full blue vote. Sometimes by margin counties and other counties, a lot of the blue vote and working on election integrity and other aspects. Right, we should embrace it. And now, and haven't yet returned. The office is just a few blocks away. Legal to on anything that has been ballot mail out. In Michigan, ballots to every registered ballot. Okay, so these are the rules you're getting. Election day only voting. The question I have, which said you can have, and we can either choose ballots anymore. They want to have, they don't do this anymore. Think about it. For weeks and weeks, zero. Persuading is about January or 5 months we wanted. Restricted the number of in-person. I think